Our winner-take-all culture, as well as our market-driven economy, have created a system that depends on and reinforces a narcissistic pathology that forces citizens to ruthlessly put their own self-interests above all else. It is a system that incentivizes short-term personal gain at the expense of long-term collective advancement, and it has utterly destroyed the family, the church, and entire communities. On an individual level, narcissism is defined as selfishness involving a sense of entitlement, a lack of empathy, and a need for admiration as characterizing personality type. This forces them to create a false grandiose self that they then try to sell to others. On a societal level, Christopher Latch defines a narcissistic culture as one where every activity and relationship is defined by a hedonistic need to acquire symbols of wealth, this becoming the only expression of rigid yet covert social hierarchies. In such a society of constant competition, there can be no allies and little transparency. The threats to acquisitions of social symbols are so numerous, varied, and frequently incomprehensible that defensiveness as well as competitiveness becomes a way of life. Any real sense of community is undermined or even destroyed to be replaced by virtual equivalents that strive, unsuccessfully, to synthesize a sense of community. Free market capitalism, competition, and consumer culture are propelled by advertising, which is designed to drive normal human inclinations like empathy, solidarity, and loyalty out of people's heads and replace them with hedonistic tendencies like greed, consumerism, and individual advancement. Personal relationships and non-market associations are sacrificed. Traditional values like family, community, church, quality of life, and self-realization take a back seat to the authoritarian nature of markets. Narcissism and capitalism, like drug addicts, are stuck in an endless search for fulfillment. Like a drug addict, participants in a capitalist society are never satisfied. They're always in search of the next investment opportunity or the next consumer experience, and, like an addict, their hunger is never satisfied. It is a feedback loop without a goal. But design or not, this is exactly the type of person who retailers want. An infantile and dependable consumer whose behavior can be manipulated to improve retail profits. Collectivist cultures tend to have more of a focus on a person's role in society, and because they have a purpose beyond their own selfish needs, they are more satisfied, happy, and have a life with a purpose. In societies based on satisfying one's own ego with superficial advancement and material possessions, empathy does not have much of a purpose. Peter Samuel writes, "In this way, it becomes a leading syndrome of a world characterized by individualization and isolation, social coldness, rat race mentality, and by a general erosion of social bonds." Narcissism manifests itself in societies that are most stratified, defined by patriarchy, racism, central power, social classes, the have and the have-nots. A tiny minority of wealthy, narcissistic elites control the country and the world. They live in constant fear that the majority may rise up. In order to keep their power over us, they must dehumanize, demean, and invalidate groups of people who threaten their status. The capitalist system is narcissistic in two senses. First, its operations are aimed only at its limitless growth, and it cares nothing for other values. Secondly, capitalism is narcissistic in that it produces narcissists. For it is easier to exploit people and the earth if one feels no human feelings toward them. The obligation is to maximize the bottom line, and that swamps all other concerns. A narcissistic economic system like capitalism does not support the vulnerable and disenfranchised. It does not offer food, housing, resources, or opportunity. Rather, its own insecurity, like that of a narcissist, demands that it work tirelessly to strip these segments of the population of self-worth and basic human dignity until, like most victims of narcissistic abuse, they internalize their own oppression. And like individual narcissists, those who sit atop the capitalist pyramid do not see others as separate individuals with their own wants, hopes, struggles, and aspirations. What they see are a means to an end, objects to be exploited until exhaustion or collapse. Capitalism uses triangulation and flying monkeys, those who hold a sliver of privilege in the system, to attack its victims. When one group of people is used to having special privileges, equality for others will feel like oppression to them. Angry at the new world, a sense of entitlement and ragefulness narcissism consumes them. Narcissism identifies with the aggressor and happily goes along with the subjugation of the weak, vulnerable, and disenfranchised. A sense of powerlessness in reality leads to fantasies of omnipotence. At the heart of it, narcissists do not produce anything themselves. They lead extremely parasitic lives to feed off the validation, pain, and accomplishments of others through manipulating, invalidating, and gaslighting until their victims believe that everything that is happening to them is their fault. The ruling class in a capitalist society does the same thing. They are what Adam Smith referred to as the unproductive class. They happily take the wealth the working class produces in the form of taxes, profits, rents, and interest, and then blame us for our situation in life. Professor Jason Reed writes, "People who dismiss the unemployed and dependent as parasites fail to understand economics and parasitism. A successful parasite is one that is not recognized by its host, one that can make its host work for it without appearing as a burden. Such is the ruling class in a capitalist society." Thanks for watching.